It was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. Emily Carter took her first step down the aisle, radiant, trembling, smiling through tears. But then, something no one expected happened. Hook, what if your dog knew a secret that could destroy everything? At the end of the aisle, her German shepherd, Buddy, stood blocking her path, growling, refusing to let her move forward. Guests gasped. "Whose dog is that?" someone whispered. But the bride's eyes widened in horror. "It's her dog," another replied, "the one she's raised since he was a puppy. Why was he here at her wedding, acting like this?" Hook, one bark changed everything. "Stay till the end, you won't believe what he uncovered." And when Buddy suddenly barked and lunged toward her groom, chaos erupted. No one understood what was happening. Everyone thought he'd lost his mind, until Buddy's instincts revealed a secret so shocking. What the bride discovered moments later would shatter her heart. The sun rose gently over the Carter family home, painting the white walls in shades of gold. Birds chirped outside the open window, their soft melodies blending with laughter and the rustle of satin gowns. Inside, the air was alive with excitement, the kind of pure, trembling joy that only a wedding morning can hold. Emily Carter stood before her mirror, the hem of her ivory dress spilling like liquid silk across the floor. Her hands trembled slightly as she fastened the delicate pearl earrings her mother had given her. "You look like an angel," her best friend Sarah whispered, eyes glistening with emotion. Emily smiled, but her heart was racing. She had dreamed of this day since she was a little girl. The music, the flowers, the promise of forever. Everything was perfect. Almost. From the corner of the room came a low, restless whine. Buddy, her loyal German shepherd, sat near the door, his amber eyes locked onto her every move. He had been with her for 6 years, through college, heartbreaks, and every lonely night. But today, something about him felt different. His ears were pinned back, his body tense, his gaze uneasy. "Buddy," Emily said softly, crouching down in her flowing gown. "What's wrong, boy?" She rubbed behind his ears, but he didn't wag his tail. Instead, he stood, sniffed the air, and moved toward the window, letting out a soft growl. Her mother, arranging flowers nearby, chuckled nervously. "He probably senses the excitement. Dogs can feel when something big is happening." Emily nodded, trying to believe it, but the unease in her chest lingered. Buddy wasn't just excited. He was alert, watchful. His instincts had never failed her before. She remembered the night he barked until she checked the oven and found it had been left on, or the time he growled at a stranger who'd followed her home, a stranger who was later arrested for theft. Buddy always knew, but this was her wedding day. Nothing could go wrong today. She stood, smoothing the lace on her dress as her bridesmaids gathered around, adjusting her veil and bouquet. The room buzzed with chatter, perfume, and joy. Outside, the wedding car waited, ribbons fluttering in the breeze. Yet, even as the photographer called for one last picture, Buddy didn't relax. He paced near the door, occasionally glancing back at Emily, his tail stiff, his eyes full of worry. When the car horn finally sounded, signaling it was time to leave, Buddy let out a soft, mournful bark. A sound that made Emily pause mid-step. She turned, smiling tenderly. "Don't worry, boy. I'll be back before you know it." But as she left the room, veil trailing behind her, Buddy stood frozen at the doorway, watching her go with a look that seemed almost prophetic. Something deep inside him knew this was not going to be a normal wedding day. The morning breeze carried the scent of roses and fresh dew as Emily stepped outside, her gown shimmering in the soft sunlight. The bridal car gleamed by the gate, ribbons fluttering gently in the wind. Everything was picture perfect, except for Buddy. The German shepherd stood rigid beside the porch steps, his ears pricked forward, his tail low, his gaze following every movement Emily made. He hadn't eaten his breakfast. Not a single bite. His bowl, still full, sat untouched by the kitchen door. That had never happened before. "Buddy, come on," Emily coaxed softly, holding out her hand. "You have to eat something, boy." But Buddy didn't move. He just stared, eyes filled with something that looked almost worried. Then suddenly, he growled low and deep, staring past her shoulder. Emily turned, startled. Her fiancé's best man, Ryan, had just stepped through the front gate, holding his phone and smiling politely. "Good morning, bride-to-be," he called cheerfully. But Buddy's growl grew louder. He moved forward, placing himself between Emily and Ryan, hackles rising slightly. "Whoa, easy there, pal," Ryan said with a nervous laugh, raising his hands. "Guess he's protective of you." Her mother stepped in quickly, patting Buddy's head. "He's just not used to visitors this early," she said, forcing a smile. But her eyes darted toward Emily, uncertain, uneasy. Emily bent down again, brushing her hand against Buddy's collar. "Buddy, it's okay. Ryan's a friend." But the dog didn't relax. His body remained tense, his breathing sharp. After a moment, he gave a reluctant whine and backed away, though his gaze never left Ryan's face. Ryan chuckled awkwardly. "I'll meet you guys at the church," he said, backing toward his car. Buddy watched until he was gone, then trotted back to the porch, pacing in slow, anxious circles. Emily exhaled, shaking her head. "I swear he's been acting so strange all morning," she said to her mother. Her mother hesitated. "Emily, you know dogs sense things we can't. Maybe he feels something's off." Emily forced a smile. "He just doesn't like the idea of sharing me today." She bent down to kiss Buddy's head. "You'll always be my first boy, okay?" But Buddy didn't respond the way he usually did. No happy bark, no wagging tail, only a quiet, haunted look in his eyes. As Emily climbed into the bridal car and the engine started, Buddy sat down on the driveway, watching her leave. The morning sun glinted off his collar, and for a fleeting moment, it looked like tears shimmered in his eyes. He could feel it. Something terrible was waiting at that church. The soft hum of the vintage car echoed down the quiet lane as Emily gazed out the window, her fingers nervously clutching her bouquet. The city slipped by in a blur of colors, white ribbons, curious faces, and glimmers of sunlight breaking through the morning haze. Every few seconds she caught herself smiling, whispering under her breath, "I'm finally getting married." Yet beneath the joy was a strange heaviness she couldn't shake. The image of Buddy's troubled eyes lingered in her mind. He had never behaved that way before. It wasn't just nerves. It was something deeper, almost like a warning. "Cold feet?" her driver teased gently, noticing her silence. Emily smiled faintly. "Just thinking," she murmured. "About my dog." "Ah, the big shepherd," he said with a chuckle. "I saw him this morning. Looked like he wanted to come along." Emily's smile faded a little. "Yeah, I think he did." The car turned the final corner, revealing St. Mary's Church ahead. Its tall spire gleamed under the sun, bells ringing in the distance. The sight took her breath away. Guests were already gathering outside, snapping photos, waving as the bridal car approached. The air was thick with anticipation, laughter, and joy. But just as the car slowed near the steps, a loud bark shattered the harmony. Emily's heart jumped. She turned and froze. Buddy. There he was, sprinting across the courtyard, fur glinting, tongue out, eyes wild with urgency. His leash trailed behind him, flapping against the cobblestones. People gasped and stepped aside as he ran straight toward the car. "Oh my God, Buddy!" Emily exclaimed. The driver slammed the brakes. The dog skidded to a halt right in front of the vehicle, barking furiously, tail stiff, ears pinned back. He circled the car once, barking louder each time, then stopped by Emily's door, whining and pawing at it. The wedding planner rushed over, flustered. "Whose dog is this? Someone get it out of here." Emily quickly opened the door. "Wait, he's mine," she said, stepping out carefully, her veil fluttering in the breeze. "Buddy, what are you doing here?" Buddy barked once, sharp and commanding, then looked past her, his gaze locked on the church doors. He growled low, the kind of growl that sent a chill through her spine. The crowd murmured, phones already out, whispering, "Is that the bride's dog? Why is he barking like that?" Emily knelt down, trying to calm him, but Buddy's body remained rigid. His eyes darted between her and the church entrance, as if trying to warn her not to go inside. Her mother stepped out of the next car, frowning. "Emily, what's going on?" I don't know," Emily stammered, her heart pounding. "He followed us here." Buddy let out another sharp bark, his eyes fixed firmly on the groom's best man who had just stepped through the church doors. In that moment, the laughter and music faded. The bright morning suddenly felt colder. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. Inside St. Mary's Church, soft organ music filled the air. Golden light filtered through stained glass windows, scattering vibrant patterns across the polished floor. Guests murmured in excitement as the ceremony was about to begin, unaware of the tension building outside. Emily stood frozen near the entrance, clutching her bouquet a little too tightly. Buddy's barks echoed off the church walls, each one louder, more desperate than the last. The wedding planner whispered urgently, "We have to start, Emily. The guests are waiting. Please, just leave the dog outside." Her heart pounded. She turned toward Buddy, who stood rigid at her feet, staring straight ahead. Not at her, but at someone inside. Following his gaze, Emily's eyes landed on Ryan, the best man. He was standing near the altar, adjusting his tie, pretending not to notice the commotion. But there was something in his posture, a nervous stiffness, a flicker of unease that made her stomach twist. "Buddy, what's wrong?" she whispered under her breath. The dog growled softly, his fur bristling. Her mother approached, laying a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Sweetheart, people are waiting. Maybe he's just overwhelmed. I'll take him to the car." But when her mother reached for Buddy's leash, the dog let out a warning bark, stepping back protectively. His eyes never left Ryan. The priest at the altar cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" His voice echoed faintly, cutting through the whispers. Emily took a deep breath, forcing a smile. "It's fine," she murmured mostly to herself. "He's just nervous." But deep down, she didn't believe it. She turned once more to Buddy, kneeling to meet his eyes. "Stay here, okay? I'll be right back." Buddy whimpered, pressing his head against her gown for a moment in a silent plea. Then he sat tail low, watching her as she stepped inside. The doors creaked shut behind her, and for a moment, all was still. The music resumed, the crowd rose, and the ceremony began. But outside, Buddy didn't move. He sat by the church doors, growling softly at the faint sound of footsteps inside, as if he knew that what was about to happen would change everything. The music began softly, a slow, tender melody that floated through the air like a whisper of dreams. The guests stood, turning toward the entrance as the great wooden doors of St. Mary's Church creaked open. All eyes fixed on the glowing bride framed in sunlight. Emily drew a deep breath. Her veil shimmered. Her bouquet trembled slightly in her hands. This was it, the moment she had imagined 1,000 times. She took her first step forward, her heels tapping gently against the marble floor. The crowd sighed in admiration. Cameras flashed. But as Emily took another step, the sound of a bark echoed outside the doors. A single, sharp, echoing bark that sliced through the music like lightning. Her heartbeat skipped. She froze for just a second, then forced a smile and continued walking. Behind her, the church doors rattled. Another bark, louder this time. The guests turned their heads in confusion. The priest glanced nervously at the doors, and then the doors burst open. Buddy charged into the church. Gasps erupted. The organist's hands froze on the keys. The music stopped abruptly, replaced by a flurry of whispers and startled cries. Emily's bouquet nearly slipped from her hands. "Buddy!" she whispered in disbelief. The German shepherd ran down the aisle with powerful strides, barking furiously, eyes blazing. He stopped right in front of Emily, blocking her path. His body trembled, his teeth bared, but not at her. His gaze was fixed straight ahead, toward the altar. The crowd erupted in chaos. Some guests backed away. Others reached for their phones. The priest raised his hands in alarm. "Get that dog out of here!" someone shouted. But Emily stood frozen. She had never seen Buddy like this. This wasn't random. This was deliberate, purposeful. Her father rushed forward, trying to grab Buddy's collar. "Buddy, stop it, boy!" But the dog growled, standing protectively in front of Emily, refusing to move. The groom, Michael, took a step forward, his jaw tight. "He's ruining everything. Get him out!" he barked. Buddy snarled in response, deep, guttural, primal. His eyes never left Michael. Emily's breathing quickened. "Buddy, please," she whispered, reaching out with a trembling hand. For a split second, their eyes met, and she saw something in them. Not anger, not confusion, fear, urgency. Buddy stepped closer to her, gently nudging her backward, as though trying to stop her from moving forward. The guests stared in stunned silence. The priest's voice trembled. "Perhaps we should pause the ceremony." Michael's face darkened with irritation. "It's just a dog," he snapped. "Someone drag it out." Buddy barked again, louder this time. His body tense, his gaze unwavering. The bride's heart pounded. The air felt heavy, charged with something unseen. And in that single, haunting moment, Emily realized something terrifying. Buddy wasn't blocking her path to ruin the wedding. He was trying to protect her from it. For a moment, the entire church stood frozen. Time itself seemed to stop. The grand silence after Buddy's furious barking was so heavy, you could almost hear the echo of every heartbeat. Emily stood halfway down the aisle, torn between disbelief and fear. Her hands trembled around the bouquet, petals quivering as if mirroring her unease. "Someone grab the dog!" shouted one of the ushers, breaking the stillness. Two men rushed forward, but Buddy growled fiercely, his sharp teeth flashing. He stood his ground, tail stiff, eyes blazing. Yet his stance wasn't one of attack. It was of protection. His body was angled toward Emily, shielding her, guarding her. "Buddy, stop!" Emily cried, her voice cracking with emotion. "It's okay." But it wasn't okay. Michael's face darkened. "This is ridiculous," he snapped, stepping down from the altar. "Get that animal out before it ruins everything." The priest raised a trembling hand. "Please calm down." But Buddy suddenly barked again, sharp, urgent, almost pleading. Then he lunged. Not at Emily, not at anyone, but toward Michael's direction, snarling, sniffing, his tail whipping with alarm. The guests gasped, half standing, unsure if they should flee or watch. A baby cried somewhere in the back pews. Emily's father reached for Buddy again, but the German shepherd spun away, eyes locked on Michael's suit pocket. Emily's voice quivered. "Michael, what's going on?" Michael forced a nervous laugh. "It's your dog. He's gone crazy. He doesn't know what he's doing." But Emily saw it. The sweat on his temple. The tremor in his voice. The sudden way he stepped backward, clutching his jacket as if hiding something. Buddy barked louder, his growls echoing through the vaulted ceiling. "Please," Emily whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. "Stop shouting. Something's wrong. He's never like this." The priest nodded uneasily. "Perhaps we should pause for a moment." The air thickened with whispers, guests murmuring, phones filming, confusion spreading like wildfire. Buddy continued barking, pacing between Emily and Michael, his body tense, refusing to let anyone get near her. Then, just as suddenly as it began, Buddy froze, his head turned slightly, ears twitching, nostrils flaring, as if he had caught a scent that confirmed his fears. He gave one final, chilling growl, and in that silence, every soul in the church could feel it. Something was terribly, inexplicably wrong. The tension inside the church had become unbearable. The once joyful atmosphere was now laced with fear and confusion. Guests shifted uneasily in their seats, whispering among themselves, trying to make sense of what they were witnessing. Michael stood frozen near the altar, his once confident smile now twisted into irritation. "This is insane," he muttered under his breath, but his voice trembled slightly, just enough for Emily to notice. Buddy's growl deepened. The German shepherd stood squarely between Emily and the groom, his eyes burning with suspicion. Every instinct in him screamed, "Danger!" Emily took a hesitant step forward. Michael, she said softly. Why are you acting like this? He's just scared. Scared? Michael snapped, his tone sharp and defensive. He's ruining the ceremony. You should have locked him up. His sudden anger shocked her. Michael had always been calm, patient. At least that's what she believed. But now, in front of everyone, he looked like someone else entirely. But he's never wrong about people, Emily whispered, half to herself. Michael scoffed. He's a dog, Emily. You're letting an animal control your wedding. Gasps rippled through the crowd at his harsh tone. Even the priest looked unsettled. The charm, the politeness, all gone. For the first time, Michael looked cornered. But he barked again, pacing in small circles before locking his gaze once more on Michael. Then he stepped forward, sniffing the ground near the groom's shoes, his nose twitching rapidly. The low rumble in his throat returned, a growl that carried warning. Michael flinched and instinctively stepped back. His hand brushed against the inside of his jacket, as if protecting something hidden beneath the fabric. Emily's stomach turned. What's in your pocket? She asked quietly, her voice trembling. Michael froze. His eyes darted to her, then to the crowd, then to Buddy. Nothing, he said quickly. Too quickly. The German shepherd barked again, louder this time, snapping the tension like glass. And in that moment, Emily knew Buddy wasn't wrong. He wasn't being disobedient. He was trying to show her something. Something Michael desperately didn't want anyone to see. The air inside the church felt electric, heavy with fear, confusion, and something darker. Emily's bouquet trembled in her hands as she stared at Michael, her heart pounding so hard she could barely breathe. The man she was about to marry looked nothing like the one she thought she knew. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched, his eyes darting nervously toward the watching crowd. Buddy's growls grew deeper, more urgent. The German shepherd's entire body was rigid, focused, alert. He inched closer to Michael with slow, deliberate steps, sniffing the ground, the air, his instincts locking onto something only he could sense. Get him away from me! Michael barked suddenly, his voice breaking with a crack of fear. Michael, please, Emily whispered. He's trying to tell us something. This is absurd. Michael snapped, his tone sharp and desperate now. You're all standing around letting a dog ruin the most important day of our lives. The priest raised his trembling hand. Perhaps we should all calm down. But before anyone could react, Buddy lunged. A loud gasp swept through the crowd as the dog sprang forward, teeth flashing, not toward Michael's face, but at his suit jacket. The fabric tore with a sharp rip. Something small and metallic clinked against the marble floor and rolled forward, catching the light. Emily's heart stopped. The church fell silent. Every eye turned toward the object that had rolled to the center of the aisle. A small glass vial, sealed with a silver cap. Buddy barked furiously, stepping in front of Emily again, growling at the fallen vial. Michael's face went white. It's nothing, he stammered. It's medicine, just medicine. The priest stepped down from the altar, picking up the vial carefully. Medicine, he repeated, holding it up. Then why is it unlabeled? Michael's breath quickened. Sweat glistened on his forehead. Because it's for my anxiety. I forgot the label. The crowd murmured, voices rising in confusion and suspicion. Cameras flashed again. Buddy barked once more, a sharp, commanding sound that silenced everyone. He wasn't attacking. He was pointing, alerting, protecting. Emily's mother stepped forward, her voice trembling. Emily, step back, honey. Michael took a slow step forward, trying to reach for Emily's hand, but Buddy moved faster, standing between them, growling low, teeth bared just enough to warn him. The priest frowned, inspecting the vial closely. This doesn't look like medicine. It smells chemical. The murmurs turned into alarmed gasps. Michael's mask shattered completely. His voice rose, cracking. You people don't understand, he shouted. You don't know what you're doing. But it was too late. The truth was slipping out. And Buddy, loyal, fearless Buddy, had forced it into the open. The church was swallowed in silence. The only sound was the faint clink of the small vial as the priest turned it in his trembling hands. Sunlight from the stained glass windows glinted off the glass, revealing a faint, cloudy liquid inside, something that shimmered unnaturally when the light hit it. "What is this?" the priest murmured under his breath, frowning deeply. Buddy stood still now, his fur bristling, eyes locked on Michael. The dog's body was tense but calm, as if his mission had been accomplished. He had exposed what no one else could see. Michael's face had gone pale. His hands trembled as he reached forward, voice unsteady. "It's nothing dangerous. Just give it to me. It's private." But the priest stepped back, holding the vial away. "Private or not, Mr. Collins, you brought this into a holy place. And judging by your behavior, I think we deserve an explanation." A low murmur swept through the guests, confusion blending with fear. Emily's pulse raced. "Michael," she whispered, her throat tightening. "Why do you have that? What's in it?" He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Sweat trickled down his temples. It's medicine for a condition, that's all." The priest shook his head. "Medicine doesn't smell like this." He held it closer to his nose and instantly recoiled, eyes wide. This smells like a chemical compound." Gasps filled the air. Buddy barked sharply, one single bark that made everyone flinch. Emily stepped back, her breath trembling. "Michael, tell me the truth." His expression twisted, fear giving way to anger. "You don't understand," he snapped. "I didn't mean any harm." Her mother clutched her chest, whispering, "Oh my God!" The priest set the vial gently on the altar table, away from everyone. His voice shook. "We need to call security immediately." Michael lunged forward suddenly, trying to grab it, but Buddy intercepted him, growling, blocking his path. The sound echoed through the vast church, primal and furious. Emily screamed, "Buddy, no!" But the dog didn't attack. He only stood firm, protecting her from the man she thought she loved. 2 security officers rushed in, drawn by the noise. They grabbed Michael's arms, pulling him back as he struggled. "You don't understand," he shouted, his voice breaking. "I was only trying to buy time." Emily stared at him, frozen. "Buy time for what?" But Michael didn't answer. He just lowered his head in defeat. And that silence said everything. The air inside St. Mary's was suffocating, heavy with shock, whispers, and disbelief. The guests who had moments ago been smiling and taking pictures now stood frozen in their seats, eyes wide, hearts pounding. The ceremony that was supposed to mark the happiest day of Emily's life had turned into something out of a nightmare. Police officers rushed through the doors, alerted by the frantic calls from the church staff. Their boots echoed sharply against the marble floor as they approached the altar. Buddy stayed by Emily's side, watchful and tense, his chest rising and falling in quick breaths. "Step away from the table, everyone," one officer commanded. The priest carefully pointed to the small glass vial resting under the golden light of the altar. "That's the object," he said, his voice unsteady. It smells like something toxic." The officers exchanged a glance. One of them slipped on gloves and picked up the vial with caution, holding it against the light. "This isn't medication," he murmured. "This looks like a harmful chemical." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Oh my God, that's dangerous stuff." Emily's heart dropped. Her mind struggled to process what she was hearing. She turned toward Michael, her voice trembling. "Why would you have something like that?" Michael didn't answer. His eyes darted wildly, searching for an escape that didn't exist. "It's not what you think," he said, shaking his head. "I swear it's not." The officer cut him off sharply. "Save it for the station. You're under investigation for possession of a controlled substance and intent to conceal." The crowd erupted in murmurs. Cameras flashed again. Emily felt her knees weaken. The man she was about to marry, the man she thought was her future, was standing in handcuffs. Buddy barked once, deep and sharp, breaking her trance. She turned to him, her eyes filling with tears. The realization struck like thunder. He had known. He had sensed the danger long before anyone else. The officers began escorting Michael toward the exit, but one of them stopped to examine his jacket. Inside one pocket, they found another hidden pouch, sealed, unlabeled, containing the same substance. The officer's face hardened. He had more of it, he said grimly. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Why? She whispered. Why would you do this? Michael's eyes filled with something between shame and panic. You were never supposed to find out, he muttered. Not like this. But before anyone could question him further, Buddy growled again, a low warning growl that silenced the church once more. He wasn't done yet. His gaze shifted toward Ryan, the best man, who stood frozen near the back, his face pale. It wasn't over. And everyone knew, in that chilling moment, that Buddy had just uncovered only the beginning of the truth. The church door slammed shut as officers surrounded Michael, holding him firmly by the arms. The once proud groom now looked hollow. His suit wrinkled, his hair disheveled, his eyes darting in panic. Outside, sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Inside, no one dared speak. The only sound was the faint whine of Buddy sitting protectively beside Emily. Why, Michael? Emily's voice broke the silence. It was trembling, not with anger but heartbreak. Why would you bring something like that into our wedding? He lifted his head slowly, his voice cracking. You don't understand. I wasn't trying to hurt you. The lead officer frowned. Then explain it. Michael swallowed hard, eyes glistening. I didn't plan to use it. It wasn't poison. It was a chemical mix, something that would cause me to collapse temporarily. I just needed time. Emily frowned in confusion. Time for what? He hesitated. His lips quivered. Time to stop the marriage, without you knowing the real reason. Gasps filled the room. Emily's chest tightened. Stop the marriage? You begged me to marry you. You told me you loved me. Michael nodded, tears streaming down his face. I did, but I also knew that once we were married, you'd find out everything, about the debts, the inheritance, the lies. I thought if I faked a fainting spell during the ceremony, it would delay the signing of the documents. I could buy a few days to fix it all. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. You were going to lie to me, even on our wedding day. He winced, voice breaking. I was desperate. I didn't mean to take it this far. The priest shook his head in disbelief. And you would have gone through with it, in front of God, your family, and this woman who trusted you. Michael looked away, shame washing over him. I thought I could control it. But then that dog. He glared weakly at Buddy. He wouldn't stop. He knew something was off. Buddy let out a low growl, not of anger, but of truth, as if confirming every word. Emily's tears finally fell. He was trying to protect me from you. Michael lowered his gaze, defeated. I didn't want to hurt you, Emily. But Buddy, he saw through me before anyone else did. And in that moment, as officers led Michael away, everyone understood the dog hadn't just disrupted a wedding. He had uncovered a deception that could have ruined her life forever. The church slowly emptied, leaving behind a trail of stunned whispers and shattered dreams. The once bright decorations now seemed to hang in silence, the scent of roses heavy in the air. Emily sat alone in the front pew, her veil lying crumpled beside her, her heart aching in disbelief. Buddy sat quietly at her feet, his golden eyes watching her closely. His ears twitched at every sound, his body relaxed now that the threat was gone. Yet his gaze never left her face. There was no pride in his eyes, no celebration, only calm understanding. Emily reached down and ran her fingers through his fur. You knew, she whispered, her voice trembling. You knew before I did. Her mother walked up behind her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Honey, that dog saved your life, she said softly. Maybe not your heartbeat, but your heart. Tears slipped down Emily's cheeks as she nodded. He tried to warn me so many times, and I didn't listen. She remembered every moment that now made perfect sense. Buddy growling softly whenever Michael came near. standing between them during arguments, refusing to take treats from his hand. Even the morning of the wedding, when he had refused to eat, pacing like he could feel the storm coming. He hadn't been disobedient. He had been desperate. "I thought he was jealous," Emily whispered, stroking Buddy's head gently. "But he was trying to tell me the truth." Buddy let out a low, comforting whine and rested his head on her lap. His warmth grounded her, pulled her back from the chaos of what had just happened. The priest approached quietly, his voice kind but solemn. "Sometimes," he said, "God sends us protectors in unexpected forms. Today, yours happened to have 4 paws and a brave heart." Emily managed a faint smile through her tears. "I don't know what I'd do without him." Outside, police cars pulled away, their red and blue lights fading into the distance. The sun had dipped lower, casting long shadows across the pews. Everything felt still again, except for the faint sound of Buddy's slow, steady breathing beside her. Emily leaned down and whispered into his fur, her voice breaking. "You didn't just stop a wedding, Buddy. You saved me." And for the first time that day, Buddy wagged his tail, slow, gentle, and full of love. The following days felt like a blur. The story spread quickly, from whispers in town to headlines online. "Dog stops wedding, saves bride from dangerous secret." News crews waited outside Emily's home, eager for details, but she stayed inside, silent, guarded. The world saw a scandal. She felt a heartbreak. The living room was quiet, except for the gentle hum of the clock and the rhythmic breathing of Buddy lying at her feet. Emily sat by the window, watching the drizzle outside. Her wedding dress hung untouched in the corner, a haunting reminder of what could have been. She had replayed the moment in her mind 100 times. The barking, the vial, the confession. Every time, she reached the same truth. Buddy had saved her, not only from deception, but from a lifetime of lies. A knock sounded on the door. Emily's mother stepped in, carrying a letter. "This came for you from the police," she said softly. Emily opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a brief report, confirming that the vial had indeed contained a controlled chemical, something that could cause temporary paralysis if inhaled. A staged collapse, just as Michael had confessed. Her throat tightened. He had planned it all. She set the letter down, exhaling shakily. "He would have gone through with it," she whispered. Her mother nodded gently. "And Buddy stopped him before it was too late." Emily turned to the dog lying nearby. "You knew, didn't you, boy?" she said with a teary smile. "You saw the truth before anyone else did." Buddy lifted his head, tail thumping once against the floor. He stared at her with those deep, soulful eyes that seemed to hold more wisdom than words ever could. Later that afternoon, a local reporter arrived, asking for a short statement. Emily hesitated, but then glanced at Buddy and nodded. Standing before the camera, she spoke softly, her voice trembling but steady. "People call him a hero, and he is. But Buddy's not just a dog who stopped a wedding. He's family. He's proof that love doesn't always come in the way we expect. Sometimes it doesn't wear a ring. Sometimes it has fur and paws and protects you when you can't see the danger yourself." The clip went viral within hours. Messages poured in from around the world, people sharing stories of their own loyal dogs, their silent protectors. That night, Emily sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket. The sky was painted with stars, and Buddy lay beside her, head resting on her knee. "You saved me, Buddy," she whispered, her eyes glistening. "You didn't just protect my life. You gave me a second chance at it." Buddy let out a soft sigh and pressed closer to her side. And for the first time in days, Emily smiled, not as a broken bride, but as someone who had been saved by unconditional love. Weeks passed, and the once lively house that had been filled with wedding chatter now felt calm, peaceful, reborn. The white roses from that day had long wilted. But in their place, sunlight streamed through the windows, warm and forgiving. Emily had stopped asking why things happened the way they did. Instead, she had begun to see the truth in a softer light. Some endings come to protect us from the wrong beginnings. Buddy followed her everywhere now, to the porch in the mornings, on quiet walks through the park. Even when she painted in the afternoons, he never let her out of his sight. Wherever she went, his steady paws and faithful eyes reminded her that she was never truly alone. One golden evening, Emily sat on the porch steps, a cup of tea in her hands. The sky glowed orange, the air cool and calm. Buddy rested beside her, his head against her knee, his tail thumping lazily against the wood. She looked down at him with a tender smile. "You know," she murmured, "I used to think love meant grand gestures, promises forever. But now I think it's simpler. It's loyalty. It's showing up when no one else does." Buddy turned his head, meeting her gaze with those soulful, amber eyes that seemed to understand every word. She continued softly, "You showed me what love really looks like. It's trust, it's protection, it's quiet courage." For the first time in weeks, her laughter returned, light and genuine. She picked up a small daisy from the porch railing and tucked it behind Buddy's collar. "You'll always be my hero," she whispered. That night, as stars glittered across the sky, Emily wrote in her journal for the first time since the wedding. The words came easily, like a gentle exhale. "Today, I stopped being the bride who was left at the altar. I became the woman who was saved by love, the kind that doesn't need vows to be eternal." Buddy stirred beside her, letting out a soft, content sigh. Emily leaned down and pressed a kiss to his head. "Tomorrow is unwritten, but for the first time, I'm not afraid. I have Buddy, my silent guardian, my truest friend, my new beginning." The morning light broke softly through the curtains, spilling over the room where Buddy lay curled up beside Emily's bed. The world had moved on from the scandal, but for Emily, life had taken a gentler, more meaningful turn. There were no wedding bells now, only quiet mornings, peaceful walks, and a bond stronger than anything words could describe. As she sat by the window, a letter in her lap, her voice trembled with gratitude. It was from the hospital where she had once volunteered. They wanted her to come back and help with a new therapy program for dogs who worked with trauma survivors. She smiled through tears, whispering, "Looks like the world needs more heroes like you, Buddy." Buddy lifted his head, wagging his tail softly, as if he understood every word. Emily turned toward the camera, her eyes glistening, the lens capturing a moment that would stay with viewers forever. "You know," she began, her voice warm and steady, "we often think that dogs need us for food, for shelter, for love. But sometimes it's us who need them more." She looked down at Buddy, who sat proudly beside her, his fur gleaming in the sunlight. "They don't speak our language, but they understand our silence. They sense danger before we see it, pain before we feel it, and love before we even realize we deserve it." Her mother's voice called from the kitchen, laughter echoing faintly, the sound of a home healing. Emily smiled and continued, "But he didn't just stop my wedding. He stopped me from making the biggest mistake of my life. He saw the truth when I couldn't. And that's what makes our bond special. It's built on trust, not words." The camera zoomed in slightly as she reached down, slipping a small flower crown gently onto Buddy's head. "He's not just my dog," she said softly. "He's my guardian, my family, my angel." Buddy wagged his tail, leaning against her leg, eyes half closed in contentment. The screen slowly faded to a soft montage. Clips of Buddy running through the park, chasing leaves, and resting peacefully beside Emily as she painted. Emily's voice spoke one last time. "Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't between people. They're between a person and their loyal companion. So cherish them, listen to them, and never take their instincts for granted." The final scene showed Emily and Buddy walking down a quiet country road, bathed in golden light, their silhouettes fading into the horizon. And then came her closing words, gentle, heartfelt, and unforgettable. "If you were moved by Buddy's story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because every story we tell honors the silent heroes who walk beside us, reminding us that love in its truest form never needs words."